and welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. Welcome. You are most welcome on this creative journey here in the Northwoods of Maine. On this episode, I am going to be chatting about my projects, but mostly I'm going to be focusing on a interview conversation that I had with my dear friend Sophia Karlsson of Sophia's Tales and her new book that she has just published. I will say that I had some technical difficulties this time around, and so the format of this particular episode may feel a little different, but overall, I think you're going to enjoy what Sophia has to share, and thank you so much for your flexibility. If you are a patron or have donated through Ko-fi, a deep, heartfelt thank you. I'm so glad you're all here. Let's catch up. Hello and welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. This format is a little different than my typical episodes or what they have looked like this year. And that's because I'm looking forward to bringing you another dear friend of mine in an interview type format regarding her new book. And that's Sofia Karlsson. And she's going to be highlighting some of the patterns in her recent publication and talking a little bit about that journey of developing, writing, and publishing her first knitting book. So I'm looking forward to having Sophia on and having a chance to talk with her again. Last time I interviewed Sophia was in Sweden last summer at her wedding, where she was just starting to think about the book and allude to it. So it's kind of nice to have the full arc of that creative endeavor to share. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. Now, as you saw, I have been delving into some of my quilting projects that have been languishing, just in need of binding. This first one is the Ballerina, and it's by Jaybird Knits, and I used I think it was Cloud 9 fabric line for that, which kind of featured themes from the Pacific Northwest here in North America. And yeah, get the binding on that, Sarah. This is a twin size, so it shouldn't take too long. And I also have another quilt that's been sitting there in need of its binding, so I think I'm gonna do that. And I've been thinking about making the sister quilt to the Autumn Friends quilt that I made for my niece Annie. And this is the same quilt, but it will be featuring Mia Charo's dogs. So that's kind of floating around here as I feel this extended week off with no travel. I feel a bit like the world's my oyster. I have some books that I'm planning to bind, and I'll be bringing that to you. But because I had this kind of extended chat, I wanted to just fill you in a little bit on where the knitting and spinning and crochet was, because that's kind of what I focused on during this month. And then we'll just get on to chatting with Sophia. Thank you so much for such warm wishes for the last chat I had, which was with my friend Nicole of The Gentle Knitter. We certainly enjoyed reading all of the well wishes and positive feedback, and it highlights for me the bit of vulnerability that goes into publishing this type of project and documentation. And I'm just so grateful to receive such kind and generous comments, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm also really grateful and deeply appreciative of all of the support that comes to this project, whether that's financial contributions through Patreon and Ko-fi, or comments, as I said, liking and subscribing on YouTube. You can of course watch this video for free over on my vlog at fibertrek.wordpress.com. That is ad-free and remains available to anyone who wants to watch it over there. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I am, as I have said before, deeply grateful, humbled, and encouraged. So let's see, for knitting, I continue to work on the Gjof by Veddis Jonsdottir, and this is in Let Lopi. I'm working on the sleeve. I've bound off for the body. I opted to do a garter stitch hem. That's a typical finish for me. My first Drema that I knit by Jennifer Steingass, I finished with garter, and I will do the same for the cuffs. So I opted to include the colorwork band at the bottom. There was a little hemming and hawing over that. I discussed on my studio vlog for patrons. And then I kind of riffed on Jennifer Steingass's Drema sleeve decreases, and I'm probably gonna leave the sleeve a little bit wider. So I continue to work on that. I'm knitting it on a US 7 per the recommendations in the pattern, and Let Lopi, deep charcoal, variation of grays, no surprises there. The other thing I've worked on since I've been home is my scrap granny square crochet blanket. I made a comment to a couple friends that I never thought I would be in love with a granny square crochet blanket ever. I never, ever, ever, so never say never, thought that I would crochet something, but I love this blanket so much. I love this item. I love the way it looks. So that I think to me just says that the materials are really speaking for themselves to my heart as a direct conduit of beautiful wools, soulful stash. This is all scrap from the past 20 plus years of fiber arts, and I'm really, as I said, I just am surprised and thrilled with this project. So again, all scraps, varying small farms. The overall main color that I'm using to bind it all together and to do the deep charcoal is a cone of Navajo churro that I purchased a long time ago at one of my retreats that I held at the New England Outdoor Center from One Lupin. So that crochet blanket, silent winner for apparently for this year. I continue to have to work squares. I'm doing 10 rows by 10 squares, and it will come out somewhere around 50 by 50, I think, in the end, maybe a bit more. The other thing I worked on is, there's three things. Oh, I got some spinning done. I am just about finished spinning some Romney fleece from Vibrant Farm, and I am doing this in just a 2-ply kind of, I would probably call it a worsted weight. And I've just got maybe 6 more ounces to spin, and then that will be done. I received a fiber as a gift from Nicole, and one of them was the Hanuri, which is a breed out of New Zealand, and I'm really excited to spin it and just try my hand at it and report back. So I have a lot of motivation to get this done so I can spin up that braid. So that's kind of what's been happening here. I had a really lovely holiday and Merry Christmas with my family. I received some beautiful gifts, one of which was a puzzle from my nephew who has taken on the full Tolkien nerddom that I have passed along to him, and he got me a beautiful puzzle by Ted Naismith, which is Flight of the Eagles, and it is obviously Hobbit themed. And so I'm going to try my hand at this 1,000-piece puzzle. Now, I've admired puzzles from afar. I have friends who do puzzle advents, and I find it really inspiring. But having space for a puzzle was a little mystery to me. But I think I've found a puzzle table space. It's a bit of a ramshackle. The table's kind of not really stable, and it's something that we happen to have here, and I kind of carved out a space in my craft room. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, as I'm working on the edging, I've really enjoyed it, and that has taken a bit of my time away from other things. But I was really thrilled to receive such a thoughtful gift from my nephew. And yeah, I got some other amazing pieces from my niece who knows me very well. So overall, it was just really fun to see what my niece and nephew's perception as of things I like, and because they were responsible for purchasing their own gifts this year. And yeah, super thrilled to kind of see myself reflected back through their eyes, and they know me very well. So yeah, so puzzles is kind of out there, and that's something I've kind of tried to slow down and slow my time down here with. And I think that might be it. I have a few books I've been eyeing. I've been cooking from some new cookbooks. I've got the whole New Year's week planned here for Rob and I with some fun new recipes. So yeah, that's kind of how 2024 is wrapping up. I've been thinking about the cast on for January, which I've chatted a little bit about being from Viola Designs, and I will have more information as we launch into 2025 on that, but I'm hankering to get my yarn out. I'd love to get the Gjof finished, and I continue to work on the Metropolitan pullover. Those are just sleeves. That shouldn't be too far off from completion. So that's kind of all the spinning around fiber planning, sweater ideas. I mean, I have lots of things I'd like to work on. Been, looking at my stash and etc. So, right now, what was I going to say? Anything else? I don't think so. On that note, I'm going to pass us over to the chat with Sophia. As much as I would love to travel in person for these types of opportunities, I've leaned heavily into technology for this one, and grateful that my internet was able to keep up. So this was done via Zoom, and I was really grateful that Sophia sent me some pictures of the patterns to share with you, so you can get a real feel for what those designs look like. I wish you a very happy new year and many fond wishes and blessings for 2025. Thank you for being with me in 2024. It was a great year, and I can't wait for what's next. And I hope that you'll join me. Take care. Bye. Welcome, Sophia. I'm so glad to be talking to you on the vlog today. I know that for you, and what I learned from you, that this isn't the most ideal lighting and backdrop because unfortunately we're not in person. But I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon anyway. But you have published a book, and I really wanted to talk about that with you before we met up. So we talked a little bit about it when I was in Sweden last year when you got married, and now it's real and it's in your hands. And so I thought you might like to talk a little bit about the process, like the arc of the idea, the experience, and then this solid book that you have. So I'm going to just kind of let it over to you, and then I'll ask questions if I have any.
Okay, thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. And I mean, I'm used to talk to you a lot, but it's always behind the scenes or in reality. And now we're doing it like this. And I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me on your
Yeah.
It's lovely. Yes, I had already signed up to make the book and started the process when you were here last summer. And now it's here.
Yeah, there it is. It's so exciting.
So it's really exciting. And it's been a long process. I've had questions earlier during the years to make a book from different publishers, but I've never felt it was the right time. But now I felt like so many pieces have come into place, and it was time to make this book. I have published Patterns on Ravelry for, I think, almost 10 years now. So that's been my main job. And now it's lovely to collect some of the old ones, and also I've designed new ones in the book. And I love books, so it's yeah, it's been a privilege to be able to make this book, but it's also been a really hard job, as you know. So I've been crazy tired and stressed out and all that. But now it's done, and I'm proud of it, and I'm glad for all the lovely people I have involved in the process, like my publisher, and all the models are friends of mine, family and friends. and my daughter has also played a big part. And it's been a journey.
And that's like kind of was part of the impetus of the book is you had done a pilgrimage. And when you were looking for a theme for this book, there was kind of like it's not just knitting patterns. There's elements of your own personal journey, um, recipes, this concept, I think, of gathering in and inner strength. And so do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, I'll try. Well, it's called Stickning en värmande kärlekshistoria in Swedish, and so far it's only published in Swedish, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a translation. But if I translate the title, it's Knitting, a warming love story. And it was actually my publisher who came up with the title for the book. So I felt it was something to work on this title because knitting to me is so much more than just the handicraft. I mean, it's a huge thing just to be able to learn how to knit. I think it's a great gift to give to someone when we teach someone how to knit. And I learned from my grandmother when I was 6 years old, and I feel it's like an invisible treasure when you get the hang of it. When you know how to knit, you have this invisible treasure. No one sees it, and when you knit, you make the treasure visible, and no one can take it away from you because it's in your body, in your hands. And I think she wanted me to have this title, A Warming Love Story, because to me, knitting is, as I said, so much more than just the knitting. It's also a way to connect with other people and connect with something larger than I. Like when I was on my pilgrimage, I have a lot of reflective texts in the book, besides the knitting patterns and some recipes, as you said. And the texts are about how these woolen threads can connect people and build bridges between us, between generations, between countries, over language barriers and maybe different cultures and so on. So I feel it connects people in many ways, and that's a lovely thing. So I'm often inspired in my patterns by nature and by meetings with special places or people, and also by art. And yeah, that's the love story of our lives.
And the pilgrimage, can you just give the general synopsis of what that is you've referenced? Because it's in Sweden and Norway, or
Yes, I went on a pilgrimage from the Swedish east coast to the Norwegian west coast. So basically, I walked through Sweden and Norway to Trondheim. And in Trondheim in Norway, there's a medieval cathedral where you and I have been together some years ago. And this was in the medieval times, in the Middle Ages, a place to go on your pilgrimage, like one of those holy places. People went on pilgrimage to Rome, to Jerusalem, to Spain, and to Trondheim, for example, because Norway's patron saint is buried there, and so this was a place where people wanted to come to. And some years ago, they renovated this a path, and I had the great pleasure to be asked if I wanted to walk this pilgrimage and also take pictures and talk about it and help to make it seen to more people. And I did, and I didn't walk the whole trail at once. I went up because it's like maybe 7 hours drive from where I live, and then I walked for a week, and then I went home, and then later I drove up and continued my pilgrimage. So it was a marvelous adventure where I really healed after difficult time in my life where I'd been through a lot of pain and grief, and I felt so much stronger walking there, and it gave me a new perspective on life, and I enjoyed the nature and just feeling small in this beautiful nature where I was walking, passing waterfalls and rivers and mountains and forests, and also through small villages and so. And I found friendship there, and yeah, you met some of my friends that I got to know there when you were here. And it really changed my life for the better in so many ways. And I also found inspiration for many of my patterns in the book on this pilgrimage. So I'm also writing a bit about that in the book.
Yeah, that's something that I know that you and I both share is there's this kind of manifestation of the knitting, and the sweater is beautiful and playing with color, but we often, and I think the book, this is what's nice about the book, is it pulls that together. There's like this deepening of reflection and spirit, and you know, and I'm so pleased that you have this like tangible piece of that work that you've done, not just the knitting, but all these other kind of reflective pieces. Like you're a poet, and you had this pilgrimage, and you've kind of captured that all in one spot. So I'm so glad the book kind of pulls on all those different things. And I know that nature inspires your patterning, and this book kind of, I'm thinking about your sweater right now. And again, like I said, it's just nice to have that all kind of captured in one thing that somebody can hold in their hands or have in their home. So, were there any particular patterns that you feel like really kind of exemplify or highlight that pilgrimage, or particular piece of the landscape or nature? Or you want to talk a little bit about the patterns? And
well, for example, I have a shawl, this one, and I feel it's a very usable size of a shawl. I made it also in this blue tweedy yarn. And I call this Ljungan, which is a river that runs almost not all the way beside this pilgrimage where I walked, but a lot of the way this river runs, that's called Ljungan. And Ljungan was a very important part in my healing process during that time. So I always feel very moved and touched when I get back. Every time I get back there, I start to cry, and I just want to dive into the river. And whenever it's suitable, I do. But I call the shawl Ljungan, the name of the river, because and I tell a story about this, how this pilgrimage goes along the river. And so this shawl, when I turn it upside down, maybe it's a bit hard to show here, but the line is very soft, but like the horizontal line, when I walk along Ljungan, this river, the horizont that I see on the other side with the woods and the mountains, it looks soft like this. So that's also what inspired me. And then it's like a warm hug wearing it, and it reminds me of the healing while walking along that river. So that's one piece in the book that is inspired by this pilgrimage. I also have a mitten, a sock, and a hat called Heart of the Forest. That is one of the patterns in the book that has earlier been published on Ravelry. And I'm so sorry that it's at the moment not available on Ravelry because it's in the book, but in a couple of months it will be available again. But it's this is the mitten. The original colors were blue, green, and white, and I put a heart among all the trees of the forest to remind us to always protect our heart, and also a reminder of how I feel protected when I'm in nature. And like I said, when I feel humble and proud at the same time while walking in this magnificent nature.
So Sophia and I are trying to bridge the gap here as we have these kind of really deep reflective opportunities, which about journeys and nature. So we're just kind of having a free-form conversation, but I'm going to bring it back to the patterns.
Well, this cardigan, for example, it's the rose that you see here on the yoke. It's a traditional Swedish rose found on knitted garments from Gotland. And so it's often called like the Gotland rose or something. So I've used that. And do you call these vines, or what do you say about
Yeah,
that?
that's just what I kind of
Leaves or something. They are also kind of common in traditional Scandinavian patterns.
Mm.
And so I put them in this striped environment that maybe isn't so traditional. But it's really lovely to knit stripes because it's like meditative, and just one more stripe and one more stripe. And I like knitting stripes. And I made my first pattern on Ravelry was a sock that I called Longing for Gotland. Because at that time in my life I was moving there, and so I used this rose in a striped sock. And I think that was like 2015 or 16. So it was a long time ago. And I also had a plan at that time to make a cardigan like this. So I could see the cardigan in my head, but I never had the time or opportunity to finish my idea about the cardigan. So now I'm really glad to have designed the cardigan and knitted it up, and it's in the book as well as the sock. So both the sock and the cardigan is in the book, and it has been so nice to see everyone knitting the cardigan in different colors. And I was at a big knitting festival in Stockholm a couple of weeks ago, and there were so many people wearing this cardigan in different colors on the roses and on the stripes. And now I only call it Longing because I don't live on Gotland anymore. I live on the Swedish mainland right now. But I think longing is a beautiful part of our lives. To long for something good, and long to coming home to safety. And here is both the cardigan and the sock. So both the patterns are in this book, and it was nice to kind of develop the thought I had 10 years ago when I wanted to make the cardigan, and now it's here. And I made one in blue, and the red one I wear, and the gray one in the book. So there's been a lot of knitting.
Yeah, I know that must have just been like we talked about not only the brain power work, but the actual, knitting
Yes.
of the garments. I wanted to say, we've talked about a shawl, we've talked about socks, we've talked about mittens, sweaters. So there is a variety of different patterns in the book, and it is a lot of charted color work, right? So people interested, I know that I was able to knit from the Kofta Boken 3 book because there's a lot of charts, and so I can kind of, use my translation services online. But because there's charts, people really can knit the pattern from the Swedish instructions. Would you say?
I think you can if you're really into knitting and you're used to knitting. Like, for example, this mitten. It's called granit, which is granite, the rock in Swedish, because there are two different grays, and then the yellow, like it's on the lichen. Is that?
Yeah.
So these are the colors I often see when I'm by the sea here on the rocks where I love to go hiking and swimming. And so it's fully charted, but also, of course, described, but that's in Swedish. But if you're a fairly experienced knitter, I think you can still get something out of it.
Because I
And
know you said that people have been ordering it from your publisher, which will, if people are interested, they can get it shipped to the United States or other countries, and they've had success. So we know that it's out there being done.
yes,
Um,
my publisher ships abroad also to the States, and she said to me that it was so interesting to her that so many people from America had bought the book. She wasn't used to shipping books in Swedish um, to the States, but I'm glad that there are people out there wanting to purchase the book, even though they don't speak Swedish or read Swedish.
Well, we talked a little bit too about just the overall feeling of the book. The photography is beautiful. And I know that you and Ella worked really hard on that together. And you have been a photographer in the past. And so you have an aesthetic that's super appealing. So even just the visual experience, I think of the book is has a lot of merit for adding to your library. I found that with some other books I've like Kofteboken. It's just so beautiful. It's so um, invigorating as far as wanting to work with different wools and get your hands on things. So I think that there's a lot to be said for the overall look of the book and what it can, do for inspiration, not just in the reading, but and the making, but the adding it to a bigger vision of one's, knitting experience and what you want to look at for beauty and those types of things. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So
I'm
there's
also very proud to be working with an illustrator and graphic designer who has put my texts and my pictures together. And she's a professional artist and illustrator. So I asked her to make a simple illustration of, for example, how if you want to buy knit a cardigan and you don't know how long you want it to be. And so she made this illustration,
Oh, fantastic.
really like schematic or what you call it, but you can see how your silhouette looks different with if you wear pants or a skirt, and how you want the cardigan to look, if it's going to be long and cozy or maybe slimmer and shorter. And sometimes it's hard to know about that on forehand while planning your cardigan. So
Right.
I'm glad to have her illustrations, and she also has some small illustrations here and there.
Yeah, so it's got
Some
what I've been, I've been ordering a lot from a Finnish company called Cozy Publishing. And so those little additions just make it such a delight. There's, as you say, there's the illustrations, there's photographs, there's color, there's landscape. So all of that kind of comes together to give you a feeling for the overall piece of the book or the pattern itself too. So yeah.
Yes.
Is there what if you had to think of one pattern in particular that you just really feel like this was a epic accomplishment? It might be this sweater that you've just talked about. I worked really hard. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. Like it was like the synergistic experience. Is there one pattern in there that you really feel like I did it, and that's exactly what I was hoping for?
I think it's this cardigan.
Probably, yeah.
And also a pair of mittens that is called Tradition because it's a traditional Scandinavian design with the different patterns on the inside and outside. And I made one pair in this colorway, and then one in this where I've just changed place of the yellow and the blue. But I really like this mitten a lot as well.
I know there are lots of beautiful patterns in the book, Sophia, and I think we kind of talked a little bit about this, but I think it would be really beautiful to look at them. We'll put some photographs in, people can really see them and and good light and all those things. And of course, we'll include a link if people are interested in purchasing the book. But I know that there are some rumblings of changes in your future. So where are you going, and what are you hoping for in the next step, not only in your knitting career and profession, but perhaps in some personal way?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. And first of all, I'm hoping for the book to be translated into English and German and some other languages, perhaps. I don't know. And I'm trying to get back to my normal routines after all the work with the book, where I didn't have time to publish any patterns on Ravelry. So now I've started to do that again. I've come out with one mitten
Oh, yeah.
called Dot Dot Dot, and also a sock. So I'm hoping to publish more patterns on Ravelry. I'm working on a really lovely, cozy sweater. But everything takes so much time because there's so much else going on as well. Like, I think what you're referring to, as you're my friend, that together with my husband, I'm moving to Norway in January. And that's a really exciting new chapter in our lives. So my husband has a job there, and I have my own company running my own knitting business with writing books and patterns. And as a photographer, designer, and writer, I can work anywhere because I'm working from home. So, and if there's a place that maybe would be better than other places, I think Norway is really good for what I'm doing as well. And I already have a lot of knitting friends there, and I'm really looking forward to explore Norway, both considering all the lovely yarns they have, but also all the beautiful nature and all the lovely people I've already met, and finding new friends as well. So we're moving to Oslo in January, and that's really soon.
I know. We were kind of chatting a little bit behind the scenes, and I was like, it's crazy. You got married, you published a book, and now you're moving all within like kind of 1 year. And you did all three big major life things. And I'm not going to lie, I'm excited about Norway because I get a chance now to have a base there. And I was joking that it's just one, that much further west, so closer to me.
Exactly. That's what I said to you. I think that when we knew about this, I'm moving closer to you now.
Yeah. Like, well, there's still the Atlantic
Well,
Ocean.
there's still this
but-
pond between us, but
yeah. Yeah. So, but I'm so appreciative that you took some time to share a little bit of your life and what's happening, and also where you've been, as kind of told through your patterns and your book. And I know people will enjoy seeing the beautiful images of those. So I appreciate you sending those along to me, putting that together. So so we'll have to hold out and see what happens next. But I know that we'll be able to follow along on your podcast, and we'll be able to look for you on Instagram as well. So those are two other places to kind of see what knitting adventures you're getting up to.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me here on Fiber Trek.
Yeah.
It's
not the first time, so it's so you to lean into to your success and all the things that you do. You bring so much enrichment, and I appreciate you taking the time for me.
So do you. You're a great inspiration for me, and you've been since the first time I saw you.
My hot cocoa on the ice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Sophia. We'll see you soon.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.